Welcome to the Debrief, where we talk to the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the headlines they're covering this week and where the story's going next. I'm Jim Antle. I'm joined today by commentary editor Conn Carrroll. Conn, abortion has been called the right that dare not speak its name, and we have this leaked majority opinion that shows Roe versus Wade may be disappearing this summer, but there has been a certain hesitance on the part of some Democrats to make the issue about abortion itself. Some obviously are talking about abortion a great deal, but there's been a focus on how all of these other rights might be endangered by the Dobbs decision.
Yeah, it's almost as if they want to talk about anything other than abortion.
Mm-hmm.
So when Joe Biden was about to get on Air Force One the morning after the decision leaked, he said that, look, this is not just about abortion, it's about a whole bunch of other rights, including your right to conceive, right to interracial marriage, right to same-sex marriage. Kamala Harris had very similar things to say.
Right.
So did AOC. So there is this message pretty much from day one after the Dobbs decision came out to make this about something more than abortion. And so I think we have to ask ourselves, why are Democrats so eager to not talk about abortion? Why do they want to make this Dobbs decision about something that's not abortion? And I think what happens when you look at it, you go to the vote that they had in the Senate this week. And so they failed on a bipartisan basis, meaning that Joe Manchin joined the Republicans voting against the Democratic bill.
Right.
And the problem is that the Democratic bill that they voted for didn't codify Roe, which is what they had been saying it would do. Instead, what the bill did is it legalized all abortions everywhere for any reason. And that's just it's an extreme position that only 19% of Americans share. And so it's because the Democratic position on abortion is so unpopular, that is why they're so eager to make Dobbs about literally anything else.
But given what they've done with Dobbs, it was an interesting strategic choice, and it's one that they've made on other issues of, rather than presenting a bill that maybe just strictly codified Roe, could have gotten some Republican votes, maybe could have even gotten Joe Manchin's votes, but would have still failed, wouldn't have been able to clear a filibuster. They chose to take a maximalist bill that maybe checks off all the activist boxes, but was going to fail on a bipartisan basis and wasn't going to get majority support and wasn't really just going to fail because of the filibuster. It wouldn't have been able to pass even without the filibuster. They've made this choice time and again to pursue the maximum thing that they could, even though it's going to fail.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice. Susan Collins, who voted for Kavanaugh, voted for Baird, voted for all the justices that ended up giving this Dobbs decision life, she is desperate, right, to vote for anything that would codify right. She was literally begging Senate Democrats, work with me on a bill that actually codifies Roe. And they said, no, absolutely not. We're not going to do that. And in Senator Manchin's statement, the Democrat that voted with Republicans against their legislation, he explicitly said, the reason why I'm voting against this bill is because it legalizes all abortions everywhere. If they had written something that actually codified Roe, I would vote for it. So there is definitely a middle portion of moderates in the Senate that want to vote to codify Roe, but Democrats don't want to go that route.
So there's been a personnel change at the White House. And, Jen Psaki has kind of been the voice for President Biden for the entirety of his term so far. She is out, or she's about to be out, and we have a new face at the podium. Not that new, because she's been the principal deputy, but new. But she's got some controversial stuff that she said in her past.
Yeah, so Psaki's last day was Friday the 13th, not to read anything into that. But the new press secretary is Karine Jean-Pierre.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right.
That's right.
But yeah, she has a whole slew of very controversial statements. She said that Donald Trump stole the 2016 election, that he's an illegitimate president because of it. This is, of course, entirely relevant because Democrats have constantly been attacking Trump for saying the same thing about the 2020 election. But that's not it. She also said the very same thing about the 2018 Georgia gubernatorial election, saying that election was stolen from Stacey Abrams. So she's a established track record of casting doubt on very legitimate electoral results, and that's going to be a huge problem for Biden as he tries to reestablish trust with the American people. This is a president, let's remember, who, according to recent polling, 66% of Americans do not trust Biden. And if 2/3 of Americans don't trust you, you're going to need a press secretary that people believe, and people just don't believe her.
And it's interesting because when she's briefed before, she has a much more understated presence than Jen Psaki does. But Jen also had a sort of interesting relationship with the Fox News reporters, and they were a big part, particularly Peter Doocy, of the viral moments that were created out of those briefings, which were sort of mutually beneficial, the Psaki bombs. But Jean-Pierre has a somewhat different take on Fox News, at least in her career as a left-wing pundit.
Right. She has repeatedly said that Fox News is a racist organization, which is a huge charge to make to a whole group of people that she's now going to have to work with. But we'll see. When you look at her most controversial statements, they're pretty much all on Twitter. Right. And so when she's actually been behind the podium, she's been more reserved. So we'll see who the real KGP is. Is it going to be the Twitter firebomber, or is it going to be the more reserved person that we've seen in real life?
And I don't know that Jean-Pierre bombs has quite the same ring to it that Psaki bombs does.
I'm sure they'll come up with something.
Yeah. Thank you, Conn.
Thank you.
You can read Conn and the rest of our commentary team's coverage at washingtonexaminer.com.